Hi there, Michael Bovee with Consumer Recovery Network. Thanks for tuning into our YouTube channel, DebtBytes. Today I want to cover who is the most likely to sue you and how quickly. The answer to that question is actually something of a moving target because trends do change. And right now, as I'm making this video in summer of 2016, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau just came out with some proposed rules that are going to dramatically change and impact how debt collection happens in the United States. This is just one section, then they're going to have another, in about another 6 weeks, they'll have another release of proposed rules about how things might change for original creditors and debt collection too. And then to top it all off, all of this year and some of last, there has been a great deal of enforcement from that federal agency that has impacted the way debt collectors go about doing what they do, banks as well. And then there's of course the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency that has impacted the way that some banks, mainly larger banks, deal with their consumers or their account holders who fall behind. So, who's the most likely as of right now, okay, August 2016? Capital One still. They sue more than anybody historically in the last decade. So, Hennepin County, Cook County, large counties, massive populations in Minnesota and Illinois, for example. A lot of studies done in different cities and courts as to who sues the most, and it's still Capital One is the heavyweight champion of litigation. They'll sue over $500. It doesn't mean that you have to owe them a lot. But running close up to that is American Express. And perhaps, by volume, Capital One has more accounts, so it's going to be hard to beat them out in that way. But Amex sues their account holders quicker than anybody else because they can actually send your account. They don't do a lot of their own internal collection. They don't have the resources for that. Never have bothered to build them out. So they'll send out their accounts, unpaid accounts, that meet a certain criteria over here, that meet a certain criteria over there. And a lot of you meet that criteria for them to place your account with an attorney for collection. And there are very large, networked collection law firms all around the United States that Amex plugs into. Zwicker and Associates is a perfect example of that. And so when they place these accounts with a legal collector, somebody who is used to using the courts, these are folks that's their job, really. I mean, they're attorneys, right? Their entire infrastructure is designed to collect through the courts. And you're just a nail. See, to an attorney debt collector who collects in the courts, and that's the main way they go about it, they're a hammer. And to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So they might start off with some very brief efforts to try and help you and assist you in some kind of plan. But they're so limited in the things that they'll do and how low they'll go on a monthly payment or things like that. It's almost pointless for somebody who's hit the skids, who's already hit the wall and can't afford to pay and fell behind in the first place. It's as if the business model is really to sue. So I want you to know about that, but I want you to know that there's things that are changing currently. And because of some of these changes, we saw, I mentioned the OCC, right? And the OCC wants major banks, Chase, B of A, Citi, the three largest credit card issuers, right? Obviously Amex and others, Wells Fargo. They want them to pay closer attention to who they sell debt to. And so because of that and how much scrutiny that was met with, and not just from the OCC, but from other angles as well, a lot of debt sales stopped. So some of the litigation that would begin from a debt sale has also lowered in volume. But that's going to probably change because of some of these changes that we're seeing at the federal level and therefore the national level for collection, what debt information is passed on to debt buyers and things like that. It's going to become increasingly easier for a debt purchaser to grab up portfolios of unpaid debt, yours, and sue. Not immediately. They're far better at trying to reach out to you, debt buyers are, generally speaking, in trying to get you to resolve an account. Not like Amex. Amex is terrible, sending it to Zwicker right away. Lawsuit risks begin month 3, month 4 of non-payment with Amex. All the rest of them, that risk doesn't even begin until usually month 7, for the most part. Credit card debt, especially. So, as we see debt buyers pick these things up, there are some that are extremely forgiving in how they'll work with you, right? So it's situational. Who's the most likely to sue and how early? Well, Capital One sues the most. Amex sues the quickest, right? And on a volume basis, I think if we went hand to hand, Amex would win that argument too. But as we move into more debt sales and more and new and way overdue beneficial to consumer regulations surrounding debt collection, we'll see a shift. We'll see where nobody's been sued by Chase since 2011. You know, that's 5 years worth of nobody being sued by the largest credit card issuer in the nation. That could easily change in the next several months as they start to sell debt again. I don't think they'll sue in their own name like they had up until that point. They let go of all the infrastructure that they had in several states, Chase Legal, I always called it, and they repurposed all those people. So they'd have to rebuild all of that. So what more than likely would happen is that they'd become more like Amex and use those existing attorney networks to sue, or they'd sell debt to those who do sue. And frankly, given the backdrop of today's debt collection environment, most people are like, no, I don't want to deal with a debt buyer, I don't want to deal with a debt collector, I just want to deal with my bank. It's getting back to the point where it was before, you know, we had the recession. So let's say 2004, 2005. It was better to deal with a debt collector than your bank. You got a better deal, more flexibility, better settlements, all of that. And we're getting quickly now back to that. So it actually could be and is already in some ways better to deal with a debt buyer and help yourself avoid litigation for the least amount of cost and with the most flexibility in payments than it would be to deal with, say, Amex. I'd love it if Amex sold their debt because they wouldn't sue as much, right? You'd have more opportunities to deal with things as opposed to the way they do things today. So I hope that gives you a sense that, okay, today watching this video, August 2016, I'll be doing more videos about this obviously as we see a sea change and as we see some particular creditors might be more aggressive or sell to debt buyers who suddenly became more aggressive than they've ever been, which I don't think is going to happen. But I'll be sure to cover the topic in more detail. Be careful if you have Amex Now or Capital One or Discover for that matter. I left them out, but you know, they do sue. Probably I'd put them third as far as credit card issuers. If you have questions about your particular situation, right, you're dealing with one of those banks, or have questions about the fact that you've been sued by one of them already, or anybody, or should you even be trying to settle debt? You can't pay, so you didn't pay. Now what do? Do you bother because you got maybe 2 Amex accounts or more accounts with banks that are going to sue you than not? Then sometimes you really just have to look at bankruptcy, and we have some videos up about that. But talk about your situation in the comments, give me some details, give me some backstory, and I can give you what I would tell you over the phone. We can do right here in the comments as far as a consult, what I would do in your particular situation. See you on the next video.